everybody. Welcome back to Five Features. We have an incredibly special guest with us today. We have Phil Martelli. I'm not going to go through his whole resume. I've seen a few podcasts do that. If you're watching this podcast, it's a Big Five podcast. You know who this guy is. So, Phil, thanks so much for joining, and I really appreciate taking your time.
I appreciate being included, Joe. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And, before I get started in some of the questions, I like to do some warm-up questions that could kind of get the air flowing a little bit in here. So, just rapid fire. What do you prefer, Phil? A cheesesteak or a roast pork sandwich?
Chicken cheesesteak.
Chicken cheesesteak. All right. Greatest Philly athlete of your lifetime.
Wow. Wow, wow,
Not
wow,
easy.
wow, 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 wow. Man, greatest single season by anybody ever. Steve Carlton, 27 wins. The team won like 59 games that year. He won 27 games on
Wow.
that team. Um, uh, like a kid, not knowing at the time, but Will Chamberlain.
Yep.
Um, and Mike Schmidt.
Okay. All right. Who's your favorite artist or band? What does Phil Martelli have on his
Springsteen,
Spotify?
Springsteen, Springsteen,
Springsteen. All right. Isn't
Springsteen.
there a new movie
Nine
coming
cat,
out?
nine concerts in my life. Nine in my life. Eight are Springsteen.
Okay, that new movie's coming out, I think. So you're gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, including a concert when he was a bar band at Widener, my alma mater, in the February 1973. There were
Wow.
50 people, because he was a bar band. He had been at Westchester University the night
Yeah.
before, came to Widener the next day.
Wow. All right. So you famously, were at the helm of St. Joe's for many years on City Line Avenue. So if you could pick, famously splits up two different towns, right? The city and the suburbs. You could pick two of your favorite cities to be on both sides, your towns on City Avenue. What are you doing?
Well, the entity itself, Delco, isn't. I didn't know it at the time. I've been there a long time, but certainly Delco being right there is a really, really, really big deal.
Then you're a
And
tour guy.
I'm just a fan. I'm just uh gosh, I'm a huge fan of. I'm just a huge fan of Philadelphia. Everything
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Awesome.
So the setting there at 54th and City Line was great.
Oh yeah, I love it. Lived there, obviously. So there's the last one. There's a trend going on the internet right now. There's a big argument. People are saying who wins in a fight, 100 men or one gorilla? What do you think?
One gorilla, no question.
Yeah. You think he takes them all out?
The fear factor for the men. There's somewhere the fear factor kicks in. The gorilla has no fear.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, all right. Thanks for and doing that with me. But I guess the first question I have is it seems to me from my vantage point that college basketball and just college sports in general, mainly football and basketball, are gearing more towards what the NBA is, I guess, in a sense than what college is. You have the agents, the athletes are obviously making money. Social media is a huge part of the whole process now. Do you think, obviously, your son's a coach now? Do you think this new era of basketball kind of ushers in with these new guys more well suited for sort of younger guys? A lot of guys like yourself and Jay Wright and Anthony Bennett and these guys, have stepped down recently, and it seems more like there could be this generational shift that might be getting guys maybe less interested, and it almost feels like it's a foreign landscape to a lot of the guys that have been in it for a long time.
I think, Joe, what I would say is it's different, and to each his own. Like whether Jay Wright's decision or Tony Bennett's decision or uh, uh, Roy Williams' decision or Jim Boeheim's decision. I
Yep.
just think that it's different. And I think first thing I would do is take a step back and say, look, it's pay for play. We can say it's NIL and we can say it's the house settlement and we could say all these different things, but it's basically pay for play. And
Right.
that has taken up, using your words, that's taken up the whole of the landscape until the games start. And then when the game is played and it's Temple against LaSalle or it's Villanova against Georgetown, what I've noticed in doing television and the games I watch on television being there in person, and then following the Bryant story this year,
Yeah.
um, that still mattered. It still mattered that you were representing your school, you were representing your family, you were representing how you were coached, representing your teammates. So that was all comfortable. Uh, the disappointment for me is that morphing into this professional world, we're putting young people, and not all young people are professionals, right? And they're not going to be professionals in the basketball world.
Mhm.
Uh, the joy. I sense a lack of joy in the pursuit of kids. There was joy in recruiting. Like, can we get this kid? Do we have something that would latch us on, that this kid would latch on to?
Right.
The joy of the competition, um, and even in the high school setting, Joe. Like, think about how many of these top level players are not going to their same high school. They're going all around the country to play for super teams or
Right.
teams that are going to travel, and the joy of playing with your friends, the joy of going to senior prom, junior prom, the joy of being involved in community service. Um, we've pushed this so far forward now that we have 15 and 16-year-olds having agents, and uh, it's different. It's different. I'm not here to say good, bad, what
Right.
was us. Oh, it's a young man's game. No, I don't believe that. I
Right.
believe that you can still build this on trust. And I think that each coach in their own way made a decision that was best for their family at this time. And I think we can't minimize the family dynamic on each of these coaches' decisions.
Right. And I think we can all agree, I mean, most of us at least, that, you know, the crux of the NIL is that most people would agree that kids should be getting paid for their services, for the colleges, how much money they bring,
Sure.
et cetera. It's a matter of how it's done and how it's kind of circumvented in, I guess. But you mentioned, St. Joe's LaSalle earlier, or Villanova LaSalle, and I'm a huge Big Five fan. Obviously, I have a podcast about it. I grew up on it, went to Villanova games, Temple games. The tradition means a lot to me. I know obviously it means a lot to you, and you're someone who's going to be written in the history books of the Big Five itself. So give me your pitch for like why you think it deserves to be preserved in a sense, where a lot of guys younger than me aren't really interested in it and don't seem to be showing up in grand scale as much.
I think the beauty of the Big Five, as it was and as it can be, the beauty is this. Everybody that watches this, Joe, at some point in their life went in their backyard and played wiffle ball against their neighbor, their brother, their cousin. And if it wasn't wiffle ball and it was colder, then they played, knee football in their basement.
Mhm.
And they played 3-on-3 with guys in their neighborhood or guys from their school. And now as you advance, that's the beauty of the Big Five, because you're in the yard. It happens to be the Palestra, it happens to be the Wells Fargo or whatever the name is now, but you're still that kid playing against that other family member. And there's a beauty to that. And it needs to be preserved. And the fact that the coaches could band together and raise so much money for Coaches versus Cancer. Yes, there's competition, and yes, you want to rip the guy, teeth out to win a game. But at the end of the day, you're representing something that's much bigger than yourself. So I get it. I get that there's angst over, well, no team's made the tournament in X number of years. What is it?
Right.
2 or 3 years, right?
Yep.
I get the angst. Uh, I guess there's angst over, well, we came up with a new idea of Philadelphia tournament and we added Drexel. And I understand all that angst. But if everybody could just catch their breath and just decide that we can still make it at the Philadelphia schools, make it transformational, and it doesn't have to be transactional. The rest of the country can be transactional.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that we would be left behind in Philadelphia. But if we could get back to trusting and instilling in our players and their families that this matters, that this really matters. None of us were there when it was created. None of us, none of us had the right to let it fall by the wayside. All of us must protect what is so precious and unique about Philadelphia basketball.
Absolutely.
Please, please, everybody do their part. Don't give up. Don't give in. And we will have another golden era of Philadelphia basketball.
Absolutely. That's a great pitch right there. I mean, I'm sold on it. It's one of those things where I tell people I do this podcast, no matter what the age of the person is, usually they go, oh, they have somebody they remember from those days, Lionel Simmons or Macon or, Jameer Nelson, whatever it is. Everyone has those. It's our unique culture thing here. And I think it's such a really awesome thing. But as a
And
coach,
and
oh, go ahead.
and it's envied. It's envied
Oh,
by
yeah.
those outside the area. I can't tell you the number of coaches that would come up and say, "You six guys get together and raise how much money
Oh, yeah.
and play each other, and yet here you are on a recruiting trail sitting next to each other." Yeah, guess what? Because in a way, and I hate that it's overused, but that really is. These guys are among my closest colleagues in this business,
Right.
and this business can be lonely. You know, you're out there and you and I hate the word, but you're grinding away and grinding. But when you look around and say, you know what, I got to pick up the phone and check on Jay Wright's family, or I have to check on Steve Dunn. That's just what comes with the badge that we all proudly wear as Philadelphians.
Absolutely. It's an unbelievable tradition. Um, and, you said, the coaching job can get a little lonely. I know you're talking about sort of metaphorically, maybe on the road a lot, or I practice a lot. But I have a unique question sort of about the game itself because I'm someone who can suffer from like performance anxiety when I'm at work, giving a presentation or something. You get that kind of pit in your stomach. When I'm
Sure.
watching my Hawks, I feel the same way, and I just look at the coach and I go, this guy must be like losing it right now. I don't understand how he's keeping this together. He's like his heart's racing. You start feeling your throat a little. My question to you is, did you have that feeling when you first started, and even after all many years, do those nerves ever kind of go away on you when you're in the middle of a game in a high intensity situation?
Big picture. The games are for the players. The practices are for the coach. And being prepared in practice and then preparing for every possible thing you can think of for a game allowed there to be a calm. My game day routine was to eliminate me being a distraction for somebody else. So was I tight? Yeah, I was tight. And like you would say, well, were you tight in 0304? You were 26-0 or you were 20. Yeah, I can remember that game feeling was the same. So what I did was I came out with a routine. Like I got dressed the same time every day. I stayed away from the office. I said my prayers at a certain time. I followed my routine. I went to the arena an hour and a half before the game. And then I said my prayers. I said a rosary before each game. And then once I went in and spoke to the team, I was then at peace. Now, my first game, I was a wreck. I was thinking, well, what if this team plays a box and one or triangle and two? And but I tried to stay peaceful because I compared Joe to what's the toughest class you took in high school?
High school, maybe like geometry or something. I'm terrible at math. Yeah.
Okay, so geometry. So you're sitting in geometry class, and here it's test day, and they hand out the test, and that same knot that you feel watching a game was the same, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the teacher is running up and down, acting the fool during the test, he's going to add to your anxiety.
Right.
So, Joe, you're no different than the greatest of greats, Jameer Nelson. He was uptight on game day and when the game was being played, right? He slowed it down so that he could then excel. But if a coach can remain calm in a moment where others feel there would be chaos, you help your players. I always focused on that. I didn't want anybody to see me sweat.
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to see me sweat. And there were times when people say, well, you didn't get. But if you watch coaches, coaches have uh, mechanisms that they use. Like,
So chewing
hey,
gum.
well, yeah, why are they going off at this referee? Well, it's not the referee. It's about something that maybe their team wasn't prepared for. And I think the greatest game day coaches are exceptional practice coaches, and we don't talk about that enough. You know, and I'm just using a name. Dick Vitale come on and say, "Oh, what a great adjustment!" Yeah, but that adjustment didn't just happen. It happened because they were prepared and they did it in practice. I always valued practice, 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 practice um, in preparation for games because I did want my team to sense calm.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe Phil Martelli just compared me to Jameer Nelson. That was, that might be the best
Put that
moment
out
of
there.
my life. You talk about St. Joe's, obviously, that year 2000, 2004. I'm not going to get into the whole landscape of St. Joe's and everything that went down. I've had people come here talk about their opinion about, the way things ended or whatever, but you've given your opinions on that already. So I'm actually questioning. You're a guy who's like, has been known locally and renowned locally for a long time. Whether it's your coaching, your success on the court, and your kind of relentless commitment to off the court stuff, development, coaches versus cancer, obviously. So you're really entrenched with Philly, and you're a respected guy in Philly. And I'm sure you're also respected by all the coaches around the country that know a lot about basketball, but. Obviously, that 2014, you're the AP Coach of the Year. You got the Jameer Nelson show. You guys are gaining a lot more traction in local for a place like St. Joe's to gain a lot of local, buzz. Obviously, so how did that year like change the trajectory of your life in the sense that maybe not what you did differently, but maybe in terms of the school buy-in, recognition, maybe the way the team operated and the program operated after that.
Hmm. First of all, Joe, we have to make sure that everybody that watches this has their, if they've not bought it, they need to buy it. They need to buy it again and again and again. A
Aaron,
Soaring Season by Aaron Bracey.
yeah,
How he did that, how he captured that, and the story that he told. Uh, I dare anybody to read it and not cry the last chapter.
okay,
I've had conversations with Jameer, and I've had conversations with John Bryant, and I've had conversations with Dwayne Jones, and they'll say, I can't read the last chapter. And I'll say, I get that. I get that. And I tried, and it just chills you to know that a basketball team could have an impact on so many people for such a long period of time.
yep,
What that season did was it allowed me to grow in admiration for the players, the people that I had recruited to that team, that our staff had recruited, because they pursued excellence in all that they did. If it was an off day, they were going to be excellent at it. If it was an autograph session, they were going to be excellent at it. If it was going to be 32 games, they were going to be excellent at it. I think we lived in a world without social media. We benefited from that because we could be the story that was told on the news and people would pay attention. We could be told in the Daily News and the Inquirer every day, and people paid attention. I wanted it to be a memory for a lifetime for the players, for their families, for our fans, for basketball people in Philadelphia. And we certainly were able to achieve that. When it ended, um, it was gut wrenching because of this, not because of the loss, but because it was the realization that this group would never be back together again. But I'm going to share with you, Joe, end of every season, the day after my last game in high school, the day after every last game that I coached at St. Joseph's, in the last game of the season, the day after, I cried because some was ego because you wanted one more day with that team because I can fix this,
yeah.
or you just tears of joy because you had the chance to be with that group. And that's the way that I felt. It was a moment in time. It was as if every day lasted hours upon hours upon hours. The memories and the relationships will never diminish. And the drive for me, one was sadness in that the whole country watched, but if that team had gotten to the Final Four, that would have been mythical. That would have been
Yeah.
Hoosiers like. It would have been a Hoosiers like, um, made for TV, made for the movies.
Right.
Um, and what it did was it drove me. It drove me to say, I don't want to hear you can't. You can't from the Atlantic 10. You can't from a school of 3,000. You can't from a gym. You can't. And every day I tried to uh, emulate that and say, you know what? If we are going to think that we should have won that game and that we should have gone to the Final Four, then we have to act like that every single day. So there were not a lot of demands on the school. It wasn't like, oh, this automatically has to change.
Yeah.
I would say this: the phone was answered when you called about scheduling. The phone was answered uh, when you went about recruiting. But people were always looking to see if you were going to change, big time. And that wasn't a part of anything uh, that we were going to be about. And I, I I think that as magical as the Villanova national championships teams were, I don't know that they captured the country's fascination the way that team did,
No.
because well, the stars were the stars, and obviously we didn't close off anybody. We welcomed everybody in, and everybody deserves to, when they have a moment in time, to think back and say, you know what, I was part of that, because everybody was part of it.
Right. How much of a pain in the ass was scheduling in the Atlantic 10? I mean, I know it's a major problem now for the league just because the teams are so solid and nobody wants to play a team that's very good but can only really hurt your rankings if you're one of the top schools.
Well, I would say it's mathematical. I think that one of the things we miss in scheduling is it's mathematical. Teams are now rewarded for running it up. They're not going to run it up on an Atlantic 10 school.
Yeah. You
Um,
lose.
uh, the team, the and again, this is like that 30,000 foot view. If I
Sure.
was Atlantic 10, I would look at, and I appreciate what VCU has done. VCU has scheduled Utah State.
Yep.
I think you have to look at those schools that are the next level and say, you know what? Let's get an MTE. Let's get something magical where we can play some of these powers. Quit whining and moping about it, and take those chances. Like, you're a Monster fan. Um, St. Joe's, Wichita State. Eh, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a really good game.
Right.
That's a really good game, in the long run. So you have to balance, like, what's going to get these people jacked, and then what's going to accomplish what you want, which is more representation uh, come March. It takes a lot of forward thinking. For instance, somebody in Philadelphia, and I'm not being disrespectful here,
Mhm.
somebody in Philadelphia should play Yale. Why? Because they're the cream of the crop now in the Ivy League. So why not?
Right.
And somebody with real nuts would go to Yale. Because how many times do you think Yale gets a call and says, "Hey, well, we'll play you, but only we'll play you here"?
Never.
Like, why not play a home and home with Yale?
Right.
Why not? Why not? And I've lost a little bit of touch with that
Ken Pom and all that
Akron.
stuff.
No, the
Oh,
Akron, Miami over
Mac.
Ohio, Toledo. Who's the power there? And somebody go play them.
Yeah.
And then if you get a chance, if you get a chance uh, in those MTEs to play those power schools, then let's go back to what we said earlier. It's five guys from your school against five guys from their school. I don't want to hear about how much they're paying somebody, and I want to hear that they got here by private and we flew commercial.
Right.
I think we have to. I think as a league,
Yeah.
we have to do a much better job of uh, just removing that narrative. No, no one will answer the call. Yeah, no, they'll answer your call. What they're trying to do is put you in an putting you in an unbearable situation to say, all right, well, we got that game. To
Right.
whose benefit though?
Yeah, I heard him talk about like doing something with the Mountain West or something just to get those guys all combined, and those are kind of semi-equal leagues. But I've had a couple of your players on the show. I've had Pat Calathis, I've had Shavar Newkirk, Daly, some other guys, a bunch of other players that played against you and stuff, and they all have nothing but great things to say about their experience with you as a coach. Um, at St. Joe's, Rasheer Fleming, as you know, just got drafted. So, what is it like to you to see these guys go on to these new endeavors that you coached, especially whether it's the NBA, whether it's overseas, or whether it's just being a good dad or a good guy?
Great point. Great point. That's a really, really great point. When I recruited, I would make a pledge to their families that I would like to put them on the path to being a college graduate. I couldn't graduate anybody. I had nothing to do with anybody graduating. I could set up the blueprint. I could put certain restrictions in place that would lead them to them accomplishing graduation. The second thing that I wanted to be able them to look at me and say, I'm a better player. If that better player leads you to Europe and a long career like Pat Calathis, like Shavar Newkirk, if
Right.
that leads you to a chance in the G League like Ryan Daly, then I would say mission accomplished. Not everybody is geared to making money to play basketball. But if that's a goal of yours, that's a dream, I want to help you pursue that dream. And then the third thing is, and foremost, I want you, because of our rules and our structure, I want you to be a better person for having experienced this. You're going to give a lot, and we're going to get a lot, and we're going to be better because of you. Not better record wise, not better coaches, but better people for having been surrounded by you. So, really, Joe, we have one rule: be on time. Being on time is the ultimate sign of respect. It's the reason that I had that rule, and it's a rule that carries over to life. So when Pat Calathis was done playing and the agency in Europe wanted him to be their American representative, and
Yeah.
they set a meeting for 10 o'clock, if Pat walked in at 10:15, he would have lost that opportunity. But I know he walked in at 10 o'clock, and therefore he got the opportunity. If Ryan Daly, and excuse my friend, if he was a half-ass, he would not be working at VCU. He would not have worked at Bryant.
Right.
But when somebody says to him, this is what time, then this is what it's going to be. The second thing that I insisted on was communication. Communication. And what are your listening skills? Let's develop those listening skills. And then the third thing was work ethic. And I'm not like outwork people. No, 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 no. No. Just promise me. Just promise me and then show me that you're going to show up and you're going to work, because good things happen to those that work at it.
For sure, man. And now you're doing this podcast. To wrap up here, I just want to do a quick shout out to your podcast and make a difference. Was that with your grandson or your nephew? Was
My nephew,
nephew?
Jared. Yeah.
How are you liking it so far? Is it you enjoying it?
Oh, I'm crazy about it. I love the prep. I love the different people. We just finished one with the head of the Welcoming Center for Legal Immigration to Philadelphia, Ann O'Callahan, 91 years old, and works with
Wow.
the immigrant business community in Philadelphia. We have in the offing, we're going to have uh, some legendary players. We're going to have a Phillies representative. We're going to get college football on there.
Nice. You
Meanwhile,
touched on everything.
doing the community uh, making sure that the people that are making a difference in the community, they get a platform. So I enjoy it. Jared has done a terrific job, and uh, I am. I look forward to prepping each week
Yeah,
to make sure that it comes across as that I really care about it. So I
definitely.
appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, I heard you on TV as well, and you always seem prepped. And you know, I like your spots there. You and Dr. G doing a couple spots, which I always love hearing him. But yeah, I mean, I really appreciate what you've done not only today, but coming on the show, but also what you've contributed to the whole tradition that I'm a huge fan of, and so many people are a huge fan of. So
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
Thank you for including me.
Yep, awesome.
Have a
Thanks.
great summer.
Yeah, you as well. Appreciate it
All
again.
right. You
Thanks,
got
man.
it.